Daniela Doe was the prettiest deer in the forest. On a beautiful spring morning with the sun shining and the birds singing, she gave birth to a beautiful little fawn whom she named Danny. All the forest creatures that lived near the little grove where Danny was born came to greet the little deer. Proud Papa, Deacon Deer, stood watch over Daniela and his son Danny, welcoming all of his forest friends. As Danny grew over the summer months, Daniela taught Danny the many nuances of the forest, what each tree and flower were called, what to eat and what not to eat, and how to walk anywhere in the forest while remaining unseen to all others who explore it. Deacon Deer was also an excellent teacher for Danny. Deacon would take his son hiking through long paths with big round rocks, climbing the steep ledges and through the great valley. As Danny grew, he would challenge his loving father to races, always trying to outrun and be faster than his dad. Too bad for Danny that Deacon was known by all the forest dwellers as the fastest deer that they'd ever seen. One fine summer day, as Danny and Deacon were strolling along, enjoying one of their long conversations, they approached the great meadow.
Race you!
Danny suddenly cried out and bolted off in a flash. Deacon barely had time to chuckle as he sped into gear and chased after his young son. They fled through the meadow towards the opening in the trees on the other side that led to one of the many hiking paths. At full speed, Deacon was catching up to Danny. However, the opening in the trees was also fast approaching. Deacon never wanted for Danny to win a race without him deserving to win, so he put his head down and ran as fast as he ever ran in his life. He knew that if Danny reached the opening in the trees first, that he would not have room to pass Danny once on the path. Danny was running like the wind. All the exercise he did with Deacon and the great healthy food that Daniela had raised him on had allowed Danny to grow into a strong young deer. He could hear his father right behind him, closing in as they sped across the meadow. In a last effort, Danny reached deep inside and found that extra strength to run harder. Deacon was amazed to see that he could no longer catch Danny as his son raced ahead, increasing his lead on his father. As Danny reached the opening in the trees ahead of his dad, the two deer finally slowed down to a trot and began laughing.
I beat you!
Danny exclaimed.
Yes, you did. Fair and square,
Replied Deacon.
Did you let me win?
Asked Danny.
Never.
Replied his father.
Always give your best effort. Earn what you want in life. I tried to win, but you were faster. Of course, you did get a head start.
Danny laughed and the two deer embraced next to each other in a loving hug. The next day, Danny was out in the forest by himself exploring all the areas that he had never seen before. Danny was a very curious deer and loved to learn all about the forest. This curiosity often took him far from the paths where most of the forest dwellers frequented, into places where no one else had ever been. While walking through a remote part of the forest all alone, he heard a very frightening sound coming from beyond the trees just ahead. Danny remembered what his mother Daniela had taught him about remaining unseen. He was excellent at hiding in the forest and knew how to blend in like he was camouflaged. He listened as the frightening sound was slowly getting louder and louder. Danny was scared and tried to remember what his mother had taught him. The creature beyond the nearby trees was growling, making a nasty snorting sound. Danny crouched even lower, frozen in fear. He remembered his mother teaching him about fisher cats, mean creatures with sharp claws and pointed teeth in their strong mouths. Danny had never seen one before, but he had listened well to his mother that he should always avoid the fisher cats because they had such a reputation of being so mean. The creature was snorting and growling, getting closer and closer to Danny. Even though Danny was excellently camouflaged, he was worried that the approaching beast would discover him, and possibly even eat him. Danny slowly crept backwards as the mean creature approached. The monster was almost right on top of him now, and Danny was almost sure that he was about to be eaten alive. Danny could even smell the foul beast as they were so close together. Danny took another step backwards. All of a sudden, he fell through a tiny little recess in the trees that was perfectly covered with branches and leaves. Danny crept back one more step into the tiny recess and lay down on the ground, cowering. Still very scared, he sat looking through the branches and leaves as the monster approached. He could see the beast now, walking low to the ground, snorting and growling as he approached him. The fisher cat was almost right beside Danny, but to his surprise, it didn't look like the monster knew that Danny was even there. He watched as the creature slowly walked past him, snorting and growling. This gave Danny an excellent opportunity to study the beast without being seen. Danny noticed the sharp claws and imagined how this creature could hurt him if he was discovered. After a minute, the Fisher Cat walked past Danny and continued on its way through the forest. He finally exhaled, so happy that he was now safe. This allowed Danny to look around and see where he was. Behind Danny looked like a tunnel through the trees and branches with a strange soft blue glow to it. Danny crouched low and proceeded to explore this tunnel and actually found the soft blue glow quite soothing after such a scary ordeal. After a short distance, Danny emerged through to the other side of the tunnel and onto a familiar path.
Wow!
Said Danny out loud to no one in particular.
I know exactly where I am.
Danny was amazed that he had found this tiny tunnel that seemed to be invisible even when the Fisher Cat was right beside him. Danny galloped down the path towards his home, eager to tell everyone about the tunnel he had discovered. This tunnel had saved Danny from being eaten alive, and it was a great find. Upon thinking about the tunnel further, Danny started to realize that this was a very special tunnel. It might be best if he kept it a secret.
I'll have to think about this,
thought Danny.
I'd like to share this tunnel with my family and friends, but I also don't want any bad creatures to find out about the tunnel.
Danny pondered.
Maybe I won't tell anyone today except for Mom and Dad. I can always ask for their advice on if I should tell others.
Danny walked the rest of the way home, delighted that he had discovered a new secret passage. New best buddies Martha Moth, Beatrice Butterfly, and Freddie the Frog were spending a beautiful summer's day by the forest pond. As always, Freddie would just love to sit and listen to the very funny and sweet talk that Beatrice and Martha always shared with each other.
I can't stop thinking about that horrible witch that trapped us,
exclaimed Martha.
Oh, indeed, that was a very frightening day,
replied Beatrice.
We were so lucky that Freddie just happened to arrive and save us.
Yes,
said Martha.
And it was so odd we didn't even know Freddie back then. We even poked a little fun at Freddie when we saw him up on that big rock.
Freddie just sat there, gently chuckling to himself. Beatrice turned to Freddie.
Just what were you doing that day up on that big rock with your eyes closed like that?
Freddie turned to his new friends and replied,
Why, I was meditating up there and preparing myself for the battle. When I'm getting ready to confront the witch, I find it very helpful to talk to the great creator and ask for guidance and strength so that I may be most effective.
Do you mean you knew we were going to get captured?
Well, I had my suspicions,
replied Freddie.
You see, when I noticed you were preparing for your first long walk through the forest in such a long time, I thought it best to keep a careful watch just in case the witch was up to no good again.
But I've got you this time,
cackled a nasty voice from behind them.
And as I said, this time I'm not alone.
Freddie, Martha, and Beatrice spun around, and only a few feet away the witch had snuck up on them.
Hold on,
yelled Freddie as Martha and Beatrice grabbed onto him. He started down the path. However, a Fisher Cat immediately blocked the way. He spun around to run off in the opposite direction and was immediately confronted by a second Fisher Cat.
We're trapped,
yelled Martha.
Oh no,
cried Beatrice. Freddie was at a loss, stuck on the path with his best friends hanging onto him. There was nowhere to run in either direction. The witch laughed at them and raised her wand, getting ready to trap them once again. Only this time she was also going to catch a delicious frog to add to her stew. We're doomed, sobbed Beatrice. And this time Freddie is going to be trapped with us.
With Freddie trapped, what can we possibly do?
Fretted Martha. The two snarling Fisher Cats closed in on Freddie and his friends as the witch prepared her spell that would lock them back in the cage. Just before the witch was able to cast her spell, she was surprised by a loud bustling noise of crackling branches from behind her. She spun around just as Danny the Deer came racing towards her and leaped clear over the witch's head, landing firmly beside Freddie and his friends.
Hop on!
Yelled Danny. Freddie, being ever so quick to assess the situation, immediately hopped up on Danny with Beatrice and Martha still clinging around his neck. In a flash, Danny bolted through the forest, avoiding the path but racing like the wind through the thick forest, faster than the three friends had ever thought possible. Danny was too quick for the Fisher Cats to follow through the thick forest growth, but the witch was ready. Pointing her wand towards the disappearing racing deer, the witch was able to fly through the forest and in hot pursuit of our four allies. Danny raced, but the witch was able to keep up. As Danny sped away as fast as he possibly could, he realized that he was not gaining any ground on the witch, and was starting to wonder how long he could maintain such a quick speed. Fortunately, he had a plan. He raced through the woods, turning this way and that, but every time Danny turned a corner out of sight from the witch, she was immediately able to spot Danny once again as she rounded the corner. The witch was delighted and called out loud,
I'm finally going to get my venison stew.
In hot pursuit, the witch kept pace with the fast-speeding deer. Suddenly, she followed Danny around another corner, but as she made the turn, expecting the chase to continue, she was dumbfounded as it seemed that they had disappeared. The witch stopped in her tracks, amazed that she couldn't see them. Looking around and seeing nothing, she asked herself,
Where did they go? Did they find another turn or outrun me? Was I going too fast with my wand?
the witch exclaimed. Completely confused, the witch continued in the same direction that Danny was previously running, hoping to catch up.
Where are we?
Asked Beatrice. Danny crept low and snuck through the little tunnel that he had previously found.
Hold on.
Whispered Danny.
There's a secret little tunnel that I know of, and I've used it to escape trouble before.
Danny crawled ever so slowly through the tunnel with his new friends clutching onto him. After a short while, he crept out the other end of the tunnel with them on his back.
I know where we are.
Exclaimed Martha.
Oh, yes.
Beatrice said.
Very clever indeed.
Freddie marveled.
Well,
Said Danny.
I wanted to keep this secret, but I felt like we had to take desperate actions.
Feeling safe, everyone climbed down from Danny's back, and the four new friends leisurely sauntered down the familiar path towards the safe area where Beatrice and Martha lived. After a while, everyone had crossed over the crooked old tree and into the safe area that Freddie had asked the great creator for.
Let's have some tea.
Sang Martha.
Oh, yes, scones with jam.
Added Beatrice. Martha and Beatrice stood looking at Danny, wondering how on earth they were going to get that large deer into Beatrice's tiny little home.
That sounds wonderful.
Commented Freddie.
But might I suggest that we dine on the patio this time, since there will be a little bit more room to host our new friend, and to learn all about him?
All four friends laughed together and made their way to the garden outside Beatrice's home. As the four friends enjoyed each other's company, Martha asked Danny how we found them and how we found that fantastic secret passage. Danny told his friends about his excellent hearing and how he heard the sound of distress when Beatrice and Martha thought everything was lost. Because Danny is so quick to run through the forest, he leapt into action to help the strangers whom he'd never met. Danny continued to tell the story from earlier in the day, including the Fisher Cat, but had to admit that he had no idea what the soft blue glow was. Upon hearing this, Beatrice and Martha looked up at Freddie, quite surprised.
Did you have anything to do with that, Freddie?
Beatrice asked.
Well,
Replied Freddie.
I did just happen to be in that area earlier today, and thought it might be a good spot to try and provide it with a bit more protection, so I asked the great creator for a bit of help.
Well, it certainly worked.
Martha cried out laughing.
Yes, but what will we do about that witch?
Asked Beatrice.
She was able to sneak up on us.
With a concerned look on his face, Freddie stated,
She is getting quite bold, and has begun to amass her army. We must never be caught flat-footed again.
Beatrice and Martha both looked down at Freddie's flat frog feet, and then looked back at each other and stifled a giggle. Freddie smiled at them, acknowledging their little joke.
Shouldn't we go fight that witch?
Asked Danny.
Not yet, my new friend.
Replied Freddie.
There are a few new friends we still need to meet.